What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. This time we're taking a look at Ghostbusters 2. So I'm going to make this review as quick as I possibly can. I overall think that Ghostbusters 2, while not as good as the original movie, is still a pretty good sequel all into of itself. It continues on from that first movie, and it further develops these characters. So let's waste no time. Let's get right into it. Overall, I think the cast in this movie is awesome. Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, Dan Aykroyd, and Ernie Hudson, they all return to reprise their roles as the Ghostbusters, and they all do a fantastic job, just like they did in the first movie. But they also have some good character development as well. Ernie Hudson gets more screen time as Winston Zeddemore, and his relationship with Ray, which was established in that first movie, in that beautiful scene they had while driving the Ecto One, talking about God and stuff like that. We get to see them here as a tandem doing parlor tricks for the kiddies, because the overall story of this movie is that 5 years after the events of the 1984 Ghostbusters movie, the Ghostbusters, instead of being heralded as heroes, were blacklisted, and they were sued and have restraining orders against them from ever practicing paranormal psychology and using their proton packs. So the Ghostbusters are all broken off doing their own separate things. Ray and Winston are pretty much acting like party clowns. Egon is still practicing his scientific stuff, and Venkman has become a talk show host and is no longer with Dana Barrett. So the Ghostbusters are all splintered off, and they're all scattered, and they're pretty much trying to salvage what's left of their professional lives in a way. So I like that. I like how this movie took a more realistic approach, because realistically, when you watch the 1984 Ghostbusters movie, at first, yeah, you're going to be heralded as heroes for saving the city, but also you caused a lot of property damage, and you're going to get heat get dumped on you. And that's exactly what Ghostbusters did. I like how they took a more mature route with a more reasonable follow-up to the events that occurred in 1984. So I thought all that was fine. This movie also gives us a good strong supporting cast. Sigourney Weaver returns as Dana Barrett. Her and Venkman are no longer together, and Barrett now has a child from a previous relationship she was in post her Venkman relationship, and it's actually Dana's child that is the catalyst of the events that gets the ball rolling in this movie, because the lead villain Vigo wants Dana's child in order to get sucked into the real world. And he wants to use that baby as a catalyst. And he does so by using the character of Janos, played by Peter MacNicol, as his herald in a way. It's pretty much, think of it as Vigo as Galactus, and Janos as the Silver Surfer. That's the best comparison I can give you as to the motivations of Vigo. Though, speaking of Janos, I think Peter MacNicol does a really good performance in this movie. I like his balance of humor and his balance of just acting creepy. He does it in a way where, even though he's being creepy, you're still laughing, because Peter MacNicol is a very talented actor, and he does a good job at making the two blend together. Dana Barrett, Sigourney Weaver, she's much better in this movie as she was in that first movie. I think it's because now that Dana Barrett's now a mother, she has more of a motherly instincts to her. And now she's become a little bit more world weary, especially when you take into account what happened to her at the events of Ghostbusters 1984. She's now more world weary. And once something happens to her son at the beginning of the movie, she goes right to Egon to get some answers. And of course, Egon goes to Ray, which eventually leads to Venkman, and all three of them go into Dana to try and see what's going on and try and piece together this mystery of what's happening. So I thought all that was really well handled, and I enjoyed it a lot. This movie has a human villain who is played by Kurt Fuller, and he is nowhere near as memorable as Walter Peck. Conspicuous by his absence, Walter Peck, and no, this movie does not give an explanation as to what happened to Walter Peck, which is ridiculous, because Walter Peck played a vital role in the original Ghostbusters movie, and in this movie it's like he never existed. I don't like that. I'm not a fan of that whatsoever. And I like Kurt Fuller as an actor. I just think his character is completely useless. He doesn't really do much. He just acts as a foil for the boys, and that's pretty much it. I mean, and that's pretty much it. He serves no purpose. You could have just brought back Walter Peck, and you could just brought back Walter Peck and put him in that position and put him in the Colt Fuller position, and I think it would have been much better because you already have an established antagonist who already does not like the Ghostbusters. Instead of making this whole new character, which is just serves as a catalyst. That's pretty much it. It doesn't mean anything. I don't care about it. But but I do appreciate this. Like I said, I do appreciate this movie giving the character of Winston Zeddemore more screen time, seeing his personality and relationships get expanded upon. I am not a big fan about how Zeddemore was not involved with the Ghostbusters when they have to be taken to trial after pretty much creating a big hole in the middle of the city as they try to explore the underground and see what they find, because it's this conspicuous slime that's causing a lot of grief. And as the movie explains it, this slime is feeding off negative emotions, and it's these negative emotions in the slime that's giving Vigo his power, essentially. I don't like how Zeddemore was not a part of that. I think it would have been much better seen if Zeddemore was a part of that, or we could have been finding out what Zeddemore was doing during the entire trial and what was going on inside the courtroom. And and the courtroom scene I actually like, because it's revealed that Louis Tully, who is an accountant, is now working for and is the lawyer of the Ghostbusters, and Rick Moranis, just like in the first movie, puts on an outstanding performance in this movie, and his and Tully gets to have some character growth. He gets to establish a relationship with Janine, which gets romantic. This movie completely ignored the budding romance between Janine and Egon. It completely ignores that and instead goes for Janine and Tully, which I actually think is better because Janine and Tully kind of have similar personalities to one another, and I think they bounce off one another just a little bit better. And not only that, Tully gets to become a Ghostbuster at the end of the movie, which is actually pretty cool. He becomes the 5th unofficial member of the team. He gets to put on a proton pack, and it was great. And he helps the boys take down Vigo. Though while the boys are pretty much inside the museum taking down Vigo, Tully's outside trying to crack this slime shell that's pretty much safeguarding the art museum. It's funny stuff. And we also get a cameo appearance by Slimer as a bus driver, which is good stuff. The production value of this movie, I think from an overall technical standpoint, this movie is actually much better directed by Ivan Reitman. I think the cinematography in this movie is much better as well. And I think the special effects, they're much more refined, they're much more cleaner, and they actually do hold up, to me at least. So, like, this movie does have a lot of improvements over the original movie in terms of story quality, in terms of where it takes its characters, and in terms of a villain. But what makes that first movie so much better than this one is that first movie, it felt special. It felt just something, you're seeing something special. Ghostbusters 2, it doesn't necessarily have the feeling of, yo, this is something really special that you have to see. Ghostbusters 2 is a movie that, if you're a fan of the franchise, this is something that you want to see, just to see where these characters just to see where these characters have ended up post that original movie. And it's give and take. You're either going to like what happened to the characters, or you're not going to like what happened to these characters. I am in the camp of, okay, I like seeing what happened to these characters. I like seeing the fallout of 1984. And I don't think Ghostbusters 2 gets enough respect in that aspect for telling a much more fleshed out, mature story as compared to the first movie. But, I think that Ghostbusters 2 does have some problems to it. Even though I like the villain and I think he's a threat, I would have liked to have seen maybe just a little bit more of him. And I think the climax is very anticlimactic. It feels like they take down Vigo within a matter of minutes. If you literally blink, you're going to miss Vigo being defeated by the boys. I didn't really think he was a threat in the climax of the movie, which was a shame because throughout the entire movie, Vigo had this illuminating presence. And to be honest with you, Janosch felt more like a main villain than Vigo did. I don't know what that says. Even though I like what they did with the Zeddemore character, there were certain scenes and moments where I think he should have been present. And the whole, I also think maybe Venkman and Dana, maybe maybe the baby should have been theirs, and they should have been like trying to rekindle their relationship as a way for the sake of their children. Just having Venkman feel a little bit more grown up, but still maintaining what you see him, how you see him interact with the child. I think that would have been pretty cool as well. Just for me, just for my sake. But overall, I think Ghostbusters 2 is a quality sequel. I enjoyed it. I think it's good, and I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10. It's a solid continuation of the first movie, despite the criticisms I have for it. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Ghostbusters 2. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.